Thank you for tuning in to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Whether you're listening during your commute, while working out, or just relaxing at home, we appreciate you. Every download, every listen, and every subscription means a lot. Up next, the 12 Kyle podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. Man, check this out. On this episode, I got a story to tell you. I'll never forget this for as long as I live. Okay, so I'm on the campus of South Carolina State University. It's a HBCU, a historically black college and university located in Orangeburg, South Carolina. And I'm playing football. I'm on scholarship. We're in the middle of a season. Well, actually, I think the season just started. And I'm preparing myself for another week of practice. Now, it was a Tuesday night, right? And I know it was a Tuesday night because Tuesdays were our longest practice. I think we practiced damn near 3 hours. At least it felt like it. And Tuesday was the hardest practice. So generally speaking, like when we practiced on Tuesdays, practice would start somewhere around 7:15. And we'd get out of practice around 10:15. And so I remember getting back to the dorm. Well, I remember it was a hard practice. And offensively, we were kind of goofing off a little bit at practice at the beginning of practice. And I remember coach making us run a little bit, actually a lot. So I was tired. And generally speaking, like after Tuesday night practices, there wasn't a lot of work for me to do. Even if there was work for me to do, unless it was something pressing, wasn't a lot of work going to get done. I pretty much was going to go to the dorm, take a shower, go to bed. Because you can't burn the candle at both ends. Now I had teammates who were, free spirits, if you will. So Tuesday night practice, they come out of practice, they go shower, some of them, and they go get out in the streets and be on campus or whatever. I just couldn't do it. So anyway, so I get back to the dorm and I'm tired. Like I'm literally tired. I go take a shower and I actually beat my roommate to the dorm. He was still at stadium for some reason. And so I get to the room and putting on my shorts. I've got some flip-flops on and a t-shirt, and I'm literally about to get into bed. And my roommate comes in. His name is Kelly Craig. And Kelly comes in and he was like, KD, what's up? And I was like, what's up, Kelly? Kelly played tight end. He was our starting tight end. And I played wide receiver. And he was like, I need you to do me a favor. And I was like, what do you need? He was like, well, I'm about to go get in the shower. I'll be right back. And I'll tell you when I get back. And I was like, that's odd. Like, why can't you tell me now? And so he's gone 10, 15 minutes, comes back. He's like, okay, Katie, I need you. I'm literally sitting on the edge of my bed. I'm looking through a magazine. That's what it was. I was looking through like a Source magazine. And because I'm biding the time until it's time for me to go to bed. And I'm like, what do you need me to do? He said, hey, Katie, I need you to run some interference for me. And I was like, when? He was like, tonight. I was like, you want me to run interference tonight after we just got out of practice? Now, for you kids at home, running interference means like you have to be the wingman for your boy. So your boy's trying to talk to a young lady. You got to be there beside him to talk to her friend. So the friend doesn't get in the way of whatever interactions that you may have with the young lady. And I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it at all. And it's not that I was being mean or anything. I was just tired. I was tired. We had a long practice and I just didn't feel like doing it. But according to Kelly, I owed him a favor. I don't know. I can't even remember what the favor I owed him was, but he said, man, come on, KD, you owe me a favor. And I'm like, Kelly, does it have to be tonight? Can we do it tomorrow night? Because I'm literally in my clothes to go to bed. Like I was about to shut it down. And he's like, no, I need you tonight. So I'm like, okay. I said, Kelly, you got 20 minutes. And I said, well, who's the girl? And he told me who the girl was. And I didn't know this girl, but I had seen her before. And she was cute. I was like, okay. So now at this point, when he told me who she was, I'm thinking her friend's got to be ugly, right? Because it doesn't make any sense for her friend to be cute too. Because, on Black college campuses, sometimes that's how it is. Like, the girl that you are looking at, she's fly, but her friend ain't as fly. But, it's whatever. So I asked him and he says, well, no, her friend is cute too. And I'm like, are you sure? And there were no cell phones, so he couldn't show me what she looked like, or he couldn't show me her Instagram or anything like that. So I'm like, all right, okay, you got 20 minutes. So I get dressed. I put on a t-shirt. I can't remember what kind of t-shirt. I put on a SC State t-shirt, some basketball shorts, and some Jordans. And we go downstairs. So we go downstairs and we're waiting. And I think she ended up calling saying like, hey, I'm coming down. So she was coming down. So as they were coming down, you could actually, where our dorm was Mitchell Hall, and they were coming from Truth Hall, and it's like a hill. So you could actually see them coming down the hill. And I saw the friend from a distance, but it's nighttime. I mean, it's like 10:30, right? So I don't know nothing. And so I was like, okay, Kelly, you got 20 minutes. So we get downstairs and I kept reminding him like, Kelly, you have 20 minutes and the clock starts as soon as they hit the door. Because again, I didn't want to run interference. I didn't want to run interference that night because I was tired. It was a long practice. It had been a long weekend. It was only Tuesday, right? One of those days. And so the girls come in and, the young lady that Kelly was talking to, she introduced herself because I had seen her before, but I didn't know her. She introduced herself and she introduced me to her friend. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Have you ever seen the episode of Martin? Remember the TV show Martin from the 90s? There was an episode where Martin and his girlfriend, Gina, who would be his future wife, where they had to recall the night that they met. And they were telling the story to their friends about how they met. But what was interesting was Martin had his version of the story and Gina had her version of the story. And they were polar opposites. In fact, both were lying, right? So what's interesting about this story that I'm about to tell you is that if you listen to some people, they'll tell you that there was one version and then they'll tell you that my version isn't the right version. I'm here to tell you, because I'm the guy on the microphone, that this is the real version as to what happened that particular night. So I met this girl and she introduces herself. I introduce myself and I'm like, okay, she's cool. I quickly realized that both of these young ladies are freshmen. Now, here's the thing. I am a redshirt junior. So I've been around the world. And I know a few things. I've seen a few things because I've been on campus for a while. These young ladies were very new to campus. They'd only been at school for the better part of a month and a half, if you will, right? And so, but I'm not worried about that. My job, again, is to run interference for my boy. So I'm there. We get a conversation going. And what's interesting was Kelly and this young lady, they go off to the left. And me and this young lady, we're sitting here, we're talking. Oh, I forgot to tell you, her name is Sherice. And so we're talking. And conversation's cool. Real cool conversation. I look up, and the next thing I know, hours passed. And Kelly and this young lady are still over here on the other side of the lobby of the dorm of Mitchell Hall. They're still talking. We're over here talking. And it was a great conversation. I can't tell you what we talked about, but what I can tell you is that there was a lot of laughs, right? There's a lot of laughs. And what was interesting was like, the laughs weren't coming from me. The laughs were coming from the stuff that I was saying. Because here's the thing. I don't necessarily say this a lot, but I'm funny. I have a sense of humor. I like to laugh. But what was interesting was this young lady, she found almost everything that I said to be funny. And I thought that was interesting because like, I remember I got off a couple of good jokes, but I wasn't over there telling knock jokes, right? It was just everyday conversation, but I had her laughing, and it was interesting because I wasn't trying to make her laugh, but she was just laughing at what I was saying, so it was cool, and we had a good conversation. And aside from her being a freshman, I did notice a few things, right? One, she was attractive. Wasn't the first thing that jumped out at me, but I was like, oh, she's cute. She's cute. She's young, but she's cute. The second thing was I realized that she was very smart. She had real big, pretty eyes. Always been a sucker for eyes, right? So, and so I was like, okay, but again, she's a freshman. There's no interest here, right? So let me back up a little bit. Young 12 Kyle had a girlfriend at the time on campus, and she had a boyfriend back home. So that's that. But I mean, like, that just came up in conversation. Again, there was very little, if any, interest on my end. And from what I could tell, there was no interest on her end either. She was just, we were both doing what we were supposed to do, running interference for each other. And so, like I said, the conversation lasted for about an hour. Everything's cool, right? So we said our goodbyes. I went upstairs, gave Kelly some dap, went to bed. Kelly, before he went to bed, he called the young lady on the phone and they talked some more. And it was a good conversation from what I understand from what he told me, because I was asleep. We were roommates. I ain't heard none of that conversation. I was out. And so what happened next was very interesting. But before I tell you what happens next, we got time to take a quick commercial break. So sit tight. On the other side, I'll tell you exactly what happened and how everything fell out from there. Sit tight. We'll be back in just a second. Are you feeling nostalgic for the golden eras of rap and soul music? If so, tune in to the Rap Soul Podcast. We are your weekly journey through the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. spotlighting the music and the hidden gems that shape the soundtrack of our lives. From the powerful beats to the soulful melodies, we bring you the best of the past with fresh insights and stories. Rediscover the music that defined a generation. Subscribe to the Rap Soul Podcast and enjoy the vibes. And just like that, we are back. Once again, it's your boy 12 Kyle. This is the 12 Kyle Podcast. And I'm telling you about my story. I met a girl. Okay, so before the break, I told you that, we met and had a great conversation. Everything was cool, nothing more, nothing less. So 2 days go by. We didn't exchange numbers, so I'm going about my business and everything's, same, still kicking it. So 2 days later, I'm walking on campus. Again, the campus of South Carolina State University. So where my dorm is, I was up by where our post office is. And the post office is like at the front of the campus. It's on campus. And I remember distinctly because it was like around 2:30ish or whatever like that. Wasn't a lot of people out. Well, people mostly in class or whatever. So I was walking. And I distinctly remember coming out of the post office. And I looked to my right. And to my right, walking towards me, was the young lady from the previous night, from Tuesday night. This was Thursday. It was Sherice. And I remember her name because I'd never heard the name before, but so I was like, okay, cool. Let me say what's up. And I was like, oh, hey, how you doing, Sherice? And she looked at me like, do I know you? She almost looked through me. And she gave me the dirtiest look like, I don't know you. Why are you speaking to me? And so that's the look I got. And so I kind of put my hand down and she was like, oh, hey. And I'm like, wait a minute. Is this the... At first, I had to kind of check myself, like, was this the same chick I was talking to the other day? And it turns out that it was. I don't know how or why I got that reception, because I got great vibes, on Tuesday night. I got a lot of laughs. You'd have thought I was Eddie Murphy up in there. And so I was blown away by the interaction. She spoke. But it was one of those, I'm going to speak because you spoke to me. I'm going to speak because I don't really know you like that, dude. But personally, I was like, oh my gosh, this little young freshman trying to carry me. She trying to play me for the fool. Like, you can't play me. I'm not a yo-yo. And so I really felt disrespected. So I was like, okay, that's cool. It's whatever. I'll see her around somewhere. And it just so happened that night, right after practice, Kelly said, hey, KD, I need you to run interference one more time for me tonight. I looked at Kelly. I said, hell no. And he was like, what do you mean? I was like, you want me to go downstairs and talk to her? He was like, yeah, I thought y'all had a good vibe. Y'all kicked it the other night. I was like, we did. I said, but I saw her ass today and she acted like she ain't know me. She tried to treat a brother like my name was Stanley or something. And he was like, are you sure that was her? I was like, man, I'm telling you, I was coming out the post office. I spoke and she barely spoke. She acted like she didn't even want to speak. Like she didn't even know me. And Kelly was like, man, you sure about it? He's like, man, I don't think that's the case. Like, Kelly, I'm telling you what happened. And so he was disappointed, but this wasn't going to stop Kelly. So he said, look, KD, 10 minutes. That's all I need is 10 minutes. I just need you to run interference for me for 10 minutes. Then you can come back upstairs. I was like, Kelly, I'm not doing 5 minutes. I'm not going downstairs talking to that little freshman. And that's what I kept calling her, little freshman. I was like, I'm not talking to that little freshman. I was like, she tried to play me. She tried to play me like my name was Leroy. No, I'm not going downstairs. And Kelly, very persistent. He put his hand on my shoulder. He said, KD, just do it for your dog. Just do it for your dog. Come on, man. And Kelly had a way with people, man. And so I had known Kelly for a couple of years. This is the first year we've been roommates. So I told him, I said, Kelly, you got 10 minutes. And I mean, it's 10 minutes as soon as they hit the door. After that, I'm out. I was like, because I ain't really got a lot of rap for her. And so they came in. So we go back downstairs. They came in the dorm. And Kelly and the young lady go over to the left. And we're standing there. And so Sherice is talking. And I'm like, I'm just listening. And I had my hands behind my back. And I remember she said something to the effect of, is everything okay? Why are you acting kind of standoffish? And I was like, I'm not acting standoffish. I was like, I just don't appreciate you and what you did. And she was like, what do you mean? I was like, I spoke to you today and you act like you tried to, like you ain't know who I was. And she was like, oh, that was you? I was like, what you mean? Was it me? I was like, who else would it be? There's nobody else on this campus that looks like me. And she was like, well, I was just like surprised. She was like, because I didn't know who you were. And she was like, you had a hat on. I was like, nah, man, nah. I was like, I don't even want to hear that. My hat had nothing. You could see my eyes. Like, it wasn't like I had my hat pulled down real low and you couldn't see me. And I was in the cut and I had a hoodie on and everything like that. No, it was none of that stuff. None of that. So anyway, so after I get my butt off my shoulders, the conversation starts. And, you know, this particular night, the conversation is even better than it was the night before. I mean, Tuesday night. And so the 10 minutes go to an hour. And I mean, the time just flew by. And what's crazy was I do remember before we parted, I was like, all right, well, you know, it's good seeing you, whatever. And she apologized. She was like, I'm sorry for the miscommunication. She was like, I promise you, I did not know that was you. And so she was like, let me give you my number. Now, she doesn't say that she gave me. She said I asked for the number. I wasn't going to ask for the number because one, I was way too cool for that at this point because I'm like, yeah, we had a great conversation, but man, you smoothed it over, but you still try to play me. So no, I'm not asking you for your number for you to play me again. No, hell no. But she offered the phone number. And so I took it. I was like, all right. It was like, I'll call you. And so we exchanged numbers. And I did call her like the next day just to say what's up. You know, again, I have a girlfriend, right? And she has a boyfriend. That's a part of the story that really doesn't get told enough. But I did call her the next day. And we talked. And we talked for a while on the phone. I mean, like, it was just a free-flowing conversation. It was really dope. It was refreshing, right? And I know what I'm about to say. I want to preface by what I'm about to say is I don't want to make it sound like it was, you know, something that I thought about because I didn't think about it because it was just kind of happening. And it literally like just happened. Well, as I mentioned, I did have a girlfriend. But like I found myself kind of gravitating toward these conversations with this Sherice girl, right? And I was starting to, and within like a very short period of time, like I was kind of pushing off my girlfriend and like wanting to, because I was really intrigued by this. And I don't know what it was. It was just like, the conversation was dope. And I mean, like, we weren't talking about anything deep or heavy, but it was just like, it was refreshing. She was very, very intelligent, very motivating. Her story was crazy, as far as how she got to South Carolina State University, because she was from Compton, California. And so I was intrigued by her story. And, we just got to be real cool and real tight in a really short period of time. And so over the next couple of weeks, like, I found myself like just wanting to talk to her all the time. And we would talk all the time. And I remember, this is how I knew it was like ramping up, because my girlfriend and I were supposed to go and get ice cream, and she was supposed to come pick me up, and she called me to tell me that she was coming to pick me up. And I was just like, I can't go. And she was like, why not? I was like, because I got some work to do. I'll call you later. And I was supposed to call her later, and I never did, because I ended up talking to Sherice for like 3 hours on the phone. And so we just really like just hit it off. And then after like that had that little time period, like I started getting attracted to her. Like I was like, yo, she's legit, man. Like, and then I could tell she was I wasn't even really spitting game, but I was just putting a little bit of player sauce on. I wasn't even giving her the whole bottle of player sauce. Just a little. I was dabbing her with player sauce. But and she had a man, but I mean her man was back home. I care about him for. So without, getting into supreme details, we started fooling around. And I was like, it literally just happened. And I don't want to sound like, because I'm not proud about cheating in a relationship. But, and I could have and should have come clean with the young lady, because I don't like the fact that I hurt her feelings. And I'm pretty sure she still hates me to this day. But the good part about it is that like we had a really, really dope friendship that we grew literally from the ground up. And so it just got to a point where it's like, I just wanted to talk to her. We just wanted to talk, and we talked and we talked and we laughed and we went places. And well, actually before we went places, I had to dump my girlfriend. I was just like, this ain't gonna work. And she couldn't understand. I couldn't tell her like, yeah, I found somebody else or whatever. I mean, like she didn't take it well. And I apologized. And I apologized and I apologized and I apologized. And, like I said, I don't know, she still might not like me. I'm okay with that. But, back then I could have and should have handled it a lot better than I did. But yeah, we had a really dope friendship, and it just really grew from there. And, eventually we started dating, and I just realized like this person is somebody that's very special. And what's interesting is like, I don't let people get close to me, particularly women. At that particular time, hell no, you couldn't get so close to me, because like after I just learned from my parents' divorce, like you don't let people get close to you, because the people can get close to you, they can hurt you. And so, but I also was told by a wise man that, you have to open yourself up to love, and it happened, right? In the unlikeliest of ways, because there's no way that I could have designed this for it to be the way that it was. And so we got to be real cool. We got to be really, really great friends. And then subsequently, we started a relationship. She broke up with old boy back home, and we started a relationship. And I had no idea where that relationship was going to go, because one, there was some difference in years, not necessarily maturity, because she was extremely mature for her age. But when I met this girl, she was a freshman and I was a redshirt junior. So I was going to be graduating soon. And she was going to have to still be in school for at least a couple of years. And you just never know how people are. And, you know, I was trying to figure out what was going to be the next step after college. And she was still trying to figure out what she was going to do with her career and, you know, after school, whatever. And so we dated and we dated and we dated and we dated. And then eventually, before I left campus, we moved in together. And that was something in and of itself. That was different because like I had never lived with a woman. But that was the best of times because we got a chance to see how each other lives. Because it's one thing to have a girlfriend or boyfriend and they come over, once or twice a week or something like that. You can, if you're a pig, you can clean up your house just for a little while, just so before she comes over. But if you live like a pig every day and she's there every day, she really sees how you live. But no, we had very similar tastes. I mean, we always did, but we like to do the same things. And we grew as kids, really in a relatively, what seems like a short period of time. But when I look back on it now, like we literally dated for, I don't know, was it 4 or 5 years? Lived together for a year and a half. And so that was interesting in and of itself. And then when I graduated, I had to move. Had to move from Orangeburg to Atlanta. And so, your relationship gets tested when stuff like that happens because you go from used to being able to see someone every day to phone calls. And there were no cell phones then. We had pagers. And so, any calls you made was long distance calls. So it was a cost. So we weaved our way through that. And subsequently, I want to say maybe less than a year after I graduated and moved, we broke up. We were just like, nah, this ain't working. And it didn't work. But the flip side of it is, and one of the things that I love telling about this story is that even when we broke up, we still remained friends. We still talked, and because we still had the foundation of a friendship. And so I will say this much. We broke up just because we were just really going in two different directions. I think I was on the fast track to, hey, I'm out here, I'm in the world, let me grow up, let me do some things. And she was still maturing as a young lady and as a college student and someone preparing themselves to graduate. And we were just on different wavelengths. It wasn't anything mean or malicious. It was just like we were just headed in two different directions. But the good part about it, the great part about it is that throughout all of this, she never closed the door on us. And I tried to close. I tried to close it because we were separated for like a year and a half. And I tried to close the door, but she stuck her foot in the door and she would not let me close the door in this relationship. And we still constantly talk. We didn't talk as much, but we still talk. And so a year and a half goes by. And I just remember, she came to Atlanta one weekend and her parents had moved here from California. And we went out to dinner somewhere. She asked me to go out because we weren't together. So, I could go out with whoever I wanted to go out with. But for me, it wasn't even about that. But I wanted to see her, obviously. And so I came looking fly. She came looking fly. And we went out to dinner. And I remember us having a conversation. And I just sitting across the table from her, I just realized like how much she had changed. Like she wasn't the same person anymore. She was grown. And I was grown. I was like, we both grown. Like we ain't kids no more. And this is somebody that you spent the better part of the last 5 years with. And so um it was interesting because I saw the level of maturity. And we talked about it and talked about it. And we said, would we give it another try? Yeah, okay, we'll try. I mean, and I'm giving you the generic version of it. And we did. And we did. And we did. And we got back together. And, it was what was interesting about that time was like the friendship and the level of maturity, but more importantly, the friendship, that's the foundation. That's always been our foundation. And so, to make this long story short, subsequently after that, we find out that we're going to become parents. And that, my friends, was a game changer because you don't know. Nobody can prepare you for parenthood. But I will say this much, by the time we had our oldest, Dion, man, everything changed. The world changed. The way I saw the world, the way I saw her, the way she saw me, everything changed. And you these two kids that have fallen in love, but now they have this child together. And this child is not going to keep them together, but this child is everything that's in them, in him. And it was special. And so, we moved forward, got married. The next year we bought a house, this house, and we had another child, another son, Cameron. A few years later, we had another son, Brandon, and then we had our daughter, Skylar. And so, all in all, in conclusion, I met this girl. And as I look back, it's really mind-boggling to me to realize that I met this girl on this day 30 years ago. It is mind-boggling to even let that come out of my mouth. I met this girl 30 years ago. We just celebrated 24 years of marriage. And you couldn't have told me 30 years ago that I'd be sitting here. And it's all because Kelly wanted me to run interference for him. And I say this all the time, and I wish I had gotten a chance to, because you think you're going to have all this time on this earth, and you don't. We don't know when our time is over. Right before the pandemic, I think it was 2019, Kelly passed away from a sudden heart attack. Came as a huge shock, but I never got a chance to thank Kelly. Never got a chance to, and I mean, Kelly and I talked, but I never said like, man, thank you. Because if you hadn't dragged me downstairs that day, none of this would have ever happened. And to be honest, I don't necessarily know how my life looks. Would I be a bum on the street? No. But I don't think I'd be married with 4 kids. Not these 4. Not that woman. No. But I'm thankful for that. And I'm thankful for Kelly. And, his memory and our times live on forever. I just wish, if I had a little bit more time and if I could go back, I'd definitely thank him. And I think I've thanked him, but I don't mean like thank you, bro. Like, thank you for pulling me, because this would have never happened. It wasn't supposed to happen. At least in my mind, it didn't. But you never know. And I guess that's one of the main morals of this story. Like, you never know how life is going to go. I mean, what's the odds? The odds are never in your favor for stuff like this. And I mean, like, there's some divine intervention, and I'd be lying if I told you that it's been a smooth ride for 24 years. It's never going to be a smooth ride. But, we're kids that learn how to navigate. And, the day that the day that we celebrated our anniversary, I put up a post on Facebook and Instagram, and it said a marriage is two imperfect people. No, the perfect marriage is like two imperfect people who refuse to give up on each other. And that's what it is. And that's what it's been. I mean, like, we refuse, and we're committed and dedicated and committed to the commitment. And it hasn't always been easy, but you know what? Anything that you want won't ever be easy. It's not supposed to be easy, right? If it were easy, we'd all do it. And I don't sit there and try to, make people feel bad if their marriage didn't work, because I have friends and family members whose marriage didn't work. How my parents' marriage didn't work. And I know that I have to keep working to make this marriage work. But it's based on a friendship. It's based on a solid foundation of a friendship. It's not based on how somebody looks or how much money they got. Because guess what? Your looks going to change and your money going to come and go. That's going to happen. I don't care who you are. That's just life. Father Time is undefeated. All of us are going to check out of here at some point. God willing, I'm here around for a long time. But the thing is, you want to have somebody, at least I wanted to have somebody there with me step by step, and that's what I have. And it's still crazy. 30 years today, I made that trip downstairs begrudgingly. But I got to thank Kelly, and I got to thank God, and I got to thank that young lady, because that girl changed everything for me. And I'd like to say I think I changed everything for her too. And, we've both created or helped create lives for ourselves and our children that I think a lot of people would be proud of. And I think we're proud of. Well, at least I know we are. And it's funny because we went to dinner, and she go kill me for telling the story. And so we went to dinner and went to this restaurant. And so she's telling me about this wine. And I'm not much of a drinker, but she's telling me she's like, oh, you got to try this. I had this one place. And let's just say the wine is called Cabo. So there's Cabo and there's Cabo Supreme. So instead of picking, she had the Cabo before, and she wanted to give me the Cabo so I could try the Cabo like her. And so she picks the wine. She says, well, hey, we're going to get this one. But instead of pointing at the Cabo, she pointed at the Cabo Supreme. And so the waiter comes out with a bottle of Cabo Supreme, and we drink it and have a good time. And the wine was dope. It was slamming. And when the bill came, the differences between the two wines, the Cabo and the Cabo Supreme, $300. So when the bill comes, I look at the bill and I'm like, wait a minute. And she looks over at the bill and she's like, what happened? She was like, I picked the Cabo. And I was like, no, you picked the Cabo Supreme. And the empty bottle of Cabo Supreme is sitting like right in front of us. And I looked at her and she looked at me and we just laughed. And that really is who we are. That's who we were 30 years ago today. And that's who we are today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the podcast. More importantly, share the podcast. You can find the podcast on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube. We got, what do we have? We have both audio and video of YouTube. You can follow me and subscribe and follow me on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, Facebook, at 12 Kyle, at 12 Kyle podcast. If you'd like to continue this conversation, we have a Reddit page. Go to Reddit /the 12 Kyle podcast. If you'd like to if you'd like to financially contribute to the podcast, a couple of ways you can do that. Look in the description box. There's a link that says merch. Click that link, You can order 12 Kyle Podcast merchandise. We've got t-shirts, we've got hoodies, and we also have coffee mugs like the one I'm holding right here on YouTube. You can also hit us up on Cash App, $TWELVEKYLE. Again, that's going to do it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for checking out this edition of the 12 Kyle Podcast. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. I'll catch you guys next time. 5,000.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of the 12 Kyle Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and share this podcast with a friend who needs the 12 Kyle Podcast in their life. Every listen, every download, and every share helps us grow. Thanks for being a part of the 12 Kyle Podcast community. We appreciate your support. We will catch you next time. 5,000.